Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back. We apologize for the issues last game with the audio. Uh, some computers on the production side were having a bit of an issue, but we've swapped producers, so we should have that all fixed. We've swapped some roles around as well. So I will be joining the casting desk. I am Aulz. I am joined once again by Crimzs here. And after a stomp by the PUDS in game number 1 that turned into not a stomp and then turned back into a stomp, what can we expect here from game number 2?
Yeah, I don't know if we could expect anything after that. It seems like both teams are capable of winning the game and simultaneously losing the game. So I think that it shows that for the side of DPS, they could come back in a game where they are 10k down, which is insane to say. But it seems like PUDs are also capable of getting themselves 10k ahead. So the question is, who's going to fix their issues and who has easier issues to fix? I'm gonna go with PUDs have an easier issue to fix. Just don't make those same mistakes from last game, and then you can easily win again. But that being said, DPS certainly shown that they could come back in magnificent fashion if they are down early.
Is there anything you think that DPS needs to change after game number 1, or do you think they will be perfectly happy to run back pretty close to the same thing here?
I think they need to keep in mind what the enemy comp is a little more. They need to pay more attention to that detail. So they can pick scaling if they want, and that can be fine, but you can also secure yourself better matchups. The bot lane matchup last game wasn't so good with the Hecarim on top of it, and that makes a lot of sense for how that game played out. A lot of ganks went down there, didn't go their way. They weren't able to survive, and Kale was really getting the beat on in the mid game there. So I think that they have to think about what they're picking, and they can go with the scaling strategy. Just think a little bit more about getting some good matchups instead.
Well, we
Yeah.
certainly see some strong lanes coming out from the side of DPS to start with the Lulu Twitch bot lane. Deceptively strong in the early game, painfully strong in the late game. The Latte duo here will have their work put in front of them.
Yeah, isn't going to be pretty in the laning phase. That's for sure. Misfortune just, one of the only 80 carries that has agency in the lane. But Janna doesn't really mesh well against Lulu Twitch. It's not like these champions are going to engage on Misfortune or Janna. And it's not like they have some crazy Janna Misfortune kill combo. Janna's just really good at peeling. So that lane can turn sour for the side of PUDS there. And so far, it looks like DPS secured pretty good bot lane. Top lane, they're going with Aatrox. Sejuani, of course, a flex pick. I think Sejuani can do well into Aatrox, so this is a bit of a risk for them to pick the Aatrox here,
It
but it
was
could
not
pay
meant to
off.
be an Aatrox. It was meant to be a Victor, apparently, and the Aatrox was meant to be a ban for Red Ban 4.
Okay, I don't know about the rules here, but does that mean they have to play Aatrox now?
I believe there's a little bit of hand waving that is generally accepted here. Draft lull is
It's a bit
notoriously
laggy.
finicky.
Yeah, it's a bit laggy. Okay, so we'll say that that is actually a Victor pick. So they've revealed their mid lane already. That ban is an Aatrox ban. So they flipped it around. They did a little flip in their brain here. So with that being said, Victor here does mean that they can secure counters by banning them out, but I don't think they banned any Victor counters here. So we'll see what the side of PUDS can do to get a winning matchup mid.
Yeah. Out of the remaining lanes of jungle and top lane, which do you give counter pick here if you are the side of DPS?
You always want counterpick for your most important lane, and 90% of the time that's going to be mid. However, in the current meta, people really like counterpicking topside because it is a bit of an island these days. Not a lot of ganks going up there, and you can solo win that side of the map through the top lane. They're going to go ahead pick up Diana Jungle, very strong in the meta with the tanky build and doesn't play nice into Janna, but is a form of engage for the side of DPS.
Yeah, some nice engage would pair well with a Yasuo. No Yasuo picked so far.
Yeah,
The
yeah, that's
Akali
the
pick.
typical combo, right? But they got Victor in the mid lane instead. That is double magic and Akali counterpick so far. I think that should play well into the Victor, as well as being able to secure kills with the Sejuani on the map. And they're stalling out for time to talk about the game and talk about their last pick here in the top side. They are blinding.
Yeah, Captain Holden survived pretty well on the Singed throughout the game. Going on the Gragas now.
Okay, Gragas is not a bad engage pick. They really have two frontline engages now, Sejuani and Gragas. I like the Gragas into the Twitch because once he pops out, you can immediately displace him into your team, and that would really be a good way to kill this Twitch in the game. But can double as disengage, so they have a lot of options for the side of PUDS. They could play their team comp multiple ways, and that is usually a good thing for your team. As last pick Cho'Gath here in the top lane, I have to assume. That is an interesting pick. Very, very strong frontliner.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen a Cho'Gath in competitive play.
Yeah, he's actually not too bad. It's just that his engage is kind of, you really wish for a better engage for a tank than that one. However, he might be able to pair up very nicely with a Diana and get a massive combo there. I am seeing one problem from the side of DPS, though, and that is a very much over-indexed amount of magic damage in the team comp. I'm counting this correctly. There is 4 magic dealing champions on the side of DPS.
Well, 3.5, right? The Lulu isn't particularly a concern, but this does slot very well for Latte Vanilla because it very well defines what he has to build here. The Twitch does. And that full AD Twitch tears through people like no tomorrow. So I think, while the indexing isn't great, it is easily balanceable as long as Latte Vanilla doesn't fall too far behind.
Yeah,
Now,
I
on the
think
other
this
side of
is
that
a bigger
coin,
deal for the top side, though, right? Top side's all magic. So I think the top side numbers should build MR, especially early game.
sure, but I don't think there's necessarily any particular kill threat onto Holden. Cho'Gath has an alright laning phase, but isn't going to be able to cut through the passive healing of Gragas. So I don't think there's much of a kill threat there. So I think it would be better for Holden to go ahead and spec normally in this game.
Oh yeah. I mean, they could definitely build a little bit of MR. I'm not saying go crazy. However, you were talking about the bot side here. Well, are you liking this matchup that they have? And I think we should keep in mind the junglers here, because both of these junglers really like to gank bot lane, is what it seems like.
Yeah, I do think the DPS has the better bot lane here, mainly because the two synergize very well, but additionally because as we saw yesterday a couple of times, the early damage coming out of the Twitch and the early surprise with an ambush and a whimsy on top can put out surprising amounts of damage. You can, with a single combo, take down this Misfortune or this Janna to under 200, 250 health with a single set of trades. And that leaves them very open to either a gank from this Diana or just another ambush.
Yeah, the Twitch range is going to be a big issue in the mid game, as you're pointing out. Should be able to play very safe, minus the Gragas. I think that's only the real option they have, as you would suspect that Twitch is not going to just let himself get engaged on, right? Latte Vanilla is going to wait till the engage happens, all the terrible CC has been used, and then unexpectedly surprise and get a huge amounts of auto attacks and lots of damage in the team fights.
Absolutely. Gonna put the pressure on Captain Holden to sniff out the rat. It'll be
Ooh, I like
interesting to
that.
see how well he carries that burden.
Yeah, Captain Holden here as we're finally starting to get loaded into this game. And I have to say, we have two frontliners in this game that are going to be absolutely huge. Sejuani versus Cho'Gath. Who do you think is going to drop first in these team fights here?
Well, I think that'll depend on how well DPS works around Sejuani's passive. If they can pop that passive early and reduce her to a normal champion, I think the Sejuani will fall first. However,
Mhm.
Cho'Gath tending to health stack rather than defense stack will be surprisingly simple to cut through, especially for a champ like Misfortune, who takes the Kraken Slayer, who puts out surprising amounts of AD damage.
Yeah. And not to mention Landrin here on the Akali, playing something very aggressive, needs to find angles on the side onto the Twitch, as well as potentially the Lulu here. I mean, this Lulu combo is so good because it just protects Twitch from everything that he's weak to, like this Akali. Polymorph and the knockup on the ultimate is so strong right now. So I do wonder what is Landry going to do when he starts facing this Lulu CC.
It's going to be difficult, and that's why Akali has a high skill ceiling, because you've got to be in there and you've got to be facing your enemy champions directly. You've got to have the presence of mind to track all of those CC cooldowns. So if Landrin misses a single timer, he's going to find himself monster food.
Yeah, that would definitely be unwanted from the side of DPS here. I want to talk about this Diana because in the current phase of this game and the meta, Diana is a very quick clear, especially on the second round once the AP items start rolling in. And I see potential members that she would want to vacuum in to a lot of damage being backed up by this Victor here. The 2v2 combo, I think we're going to have to give it to Diana Victor, but it's not like Sejuani and Akali are out in this 2v2.
No, absolutely not. Sejuani and Akali, of course, with Akali being melee, works very well with that Sejuani passive. It'll be interesting to see how much Nerubius wants to hang around this mid lane, because if they can get a couple of kills, they can start turning that 2v2 on its head.
Yeah, as you're mentioning with the passive, pre-6, they definitely win that 2v2 and it switches at level 6. So interesting to see if there's going to be plays being made early here.
All right, with that, we are going to head to a short break here while we complete load in. When we come back, these two teams get on the Rift for game number 2 of this final matchup of the weekend. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on to the Rift. The teams have
Welcome to
loaded in and
Summoner's
are
Rift.
spreading out. Looks like we're about to get started here. Nothing particularly spicy from either of these teams
30
in the
seconds until
early
minions
fanouts.
spawn.
However, Crimz, you want to give us an idea into these summoner spells and runes? Anything jumping out at you that you think bears mentioning here?
Yeah, I see something interesting, and I'm not the only one, as we have access to chat here. There are pings going down on this cleanse on Twitch, and normally that would make a lot of sense. Because all right, we gotta pause. Gamers they can't go to bathroom on time here, as we have latte vanilla with the cleanse on the Twitch. I find that interesting. It's good into Bola, obviously
Minions have
from the
spawned.
Sejuani, but I don't really see any other reason to pick it up, and it might be a mistake in the lane phase.
Would be nice to have the combat summoner
A
spells.
harmless
However,
breeze.
with Latte Vanilla, as you mentioned in Champ Select, being the only AD damage threat for the
I
side
don't
of
know what came
DPS,
over me.
it's important for this
Yes,
Twitch to stay
it's
alive.
true. For only
That is
So
definitely the case here.
perhaps willing to sacrifice the lane phase just a bit in exchange for a better overall end game.
Yeah, definitely will need to be ducking and dodging Sejuani ults. I mean, yeah, you could also go for QSS later. That's the argumentation there. Just pick up a QSS later in the game.
Oh no!
And I
Latte
have
Vanilla stole the
definitely
blue buff.
have had that happen to me a couple times. And really what it comes down to as a jungler is you're trying to save your smite for the camps you want to, right? So you go, okay, I'm not gonna smite this one. And well, Twitch passive picks it up. That is unfortunate.
That's pretty hard to pick up on an AD Twitch though, doing a whole 6 damage per tick. So
It's not much.
Real unfortunate for Kenzie Shinx there. Latte Vanilla will have to try and make use of this early if he wants to
Yeah, early level
salvage
2,
his
using
jungler's
it.
ego.
Yeah, using
Going
it there.
in is Latte Vanilla. The immediate counter engage with the tornado from Fun Phoenix means that it's just a little bit of damage.
Alright, well, unfortunately, they still have the same jungle clear time so far. Kenzie, I mean, Diana's just so fast. Is a level down. You know, it'd be really brutal, but an invade probably would have been the best option. But would you be willing to do that? Do the enemy jungler so dirty like that?
Absolutely. This is a competitive match. You have to take every advantage you can get. However, we are going to see the gank here. The flash tornado from Fun Phoenix to knock up Nerubius. The cleanse coming out to try and get away from the slow, but will be stunned up by Nerubius again. Latte Vanilla down under 150 health. But with Latte Macchiato flashing out as well, it doesn't look like there's quite enough damage on the side of PUDS.
All right, on the top side, Kenzie going to return a gank here, and Captain Holden is manaless.
Is manaless, but Red Strike not much better here.
That is interesting. I think Red Strike was expecting some help, but he very aggressively pushing this lane. Has more mana, can heal off the minions. Just going to use that to stall time for this crab take here. Now Rubius going for another gank.
Yeah, Queen Lyre has to be a little bit careful here. Running away. The passive again on the Akali does not matter though, as Queen Lyre puts down the gravity field and immediately flashes away from Nerubius. Kenzie Shinx is in the area now, trying to take down the boar. Down under 200 health is Nerubius, down under 100, but the stun on the Kenzie Shinx. Can Landrin land the kill? Yes, the ignite ticks down. First blood for Landrin. However, Queen Lyre picks up the counter kill onto the Sejuani. The gravity field goes down, doesn't quite land onto Landrin. A shuriken flip will get the Akali away safely.
Yeah, and that is the power of the Sejuani passive. You can see that they were able to stack that really early. Alright, well. Alright, so after that, it looks like Ranjan's going to make it back to mid lane. Latte Macchiato, and interestingly enough, is staying here. They're trying to get this wave in so that their mid laner can get a good back, it seems. What a bro from the support here. And they're really trying for it, but they're having a rough time. Eventually, they're going to have to... Eventually, Macchiato's going to have to make it back to bottom lane. Finally, the jungler comes in to secure the push. And that is going to be Queen Lyre back in with some gold in the pocket. 1,000, 1,300 to spend. And that's going to be a huge power spike for the victor.
Yeah, all this time does, in theory, mean that Latte Vanilla gets solo XP. However, down 16 minions as a result of not being able to walk up without his support. So this Twitch really feeling the pain of the fact that DPS has chosen to prioritize the mid laner here.
Yeah, Red Strike getting the beatdown. Gragas is going to be pretty strong in the early game. Has to watch out level 6 for a Gragas combo at this HP. And he's still getting poked down by these barrels here. Maybe in a couple waves going to have to back off. Still has the TP. Holden does not. Rubius is picking up some camps, aiming for that level 6 as soon as possible. And dragon spawning means that there is an opportunity for someone to get an early objective. No team in bot lane is winning dominantly just yet, but Slicin is looking like they are going to be on top in the coming minutes here.
Yeah, Slicin, with that little bit of extra gold from the minions he is currently up,
Oh.
will have the advantage. Captain Holden, though, is a level up. Red Strike has not yet hit level 6, has the explosive cast. Here it goes. Red Strike thrown back into Holden's minions. One last auto will do it, and Red Strike falls in the top lane. Solo kill.
And that is going to be a kill coming out. Captain Holden, I was saying, Red Strike has to play safe around this level 6 here. Gets a plate as well as a TP. Very well played from that top laner there. Kenzie, fortunately, does not make it to top lane as Nerubius is setting up a trap bottom.
Yeah, Latte Vanilla going in here, gets the exhaust down, but will immediately cleanse. Now Sliacin trying to run away, is at 150 health, but will survive. Queen Lyre is here as well. Latte Macchiato now the one in trouble as Landrin has joined the fight. A double kill for the Sejuani. Queen Lyre trying to run it for his life. The Chaos Storm goes down.
Triple!
Landrin dashing into the turret. Queen Lyre gets the stun. A triple kill for the Sejuani in the bot lane.
I really thought Landrin was going to be the one picking up all those kills, but Rubius is just going to steal them away. 3-1 on the Sejuani, and they're really showing the power of the Sejuani. Akali here, unfortunately, they don't have the combos unlocked for the side of DPS. They're going to be falling down early. 2K, we've seen this story before. Is it going to be the same story told yet again?
Well, as we saw with the last story, even when you're up 10,000 gold, that doesn't necessarily mean that the game is over.
Yeah, certainly can see DPS pulling this game back here. Captain Holden playing very aggressively, trying to get ahead even farther. And Red Strike being zoned away as Landrin's making another roam attempt here. This is going to be very aggressive roaming plays. They do have a big wave. This dive would be absolutely detrimental to Red Strike.
Yeah, Red Strike taking a lot of poke already. The body slam comes through. A 5-point strike takes more health down. Meanwhile, as he fights in the jungle as well as Kenzie Shanks finds Nerubius here, trying to invade. Kenzie Shanks down under half health, pops the ultimate. Nerubius isn't level 6 here, so he's got to be very careful as Latte Vanilla has roamed up. Queen Lyre is on the way as well. Nerubius is going to fall here. A shutdown. Meanwhile, on the top side, Red Strike is going to fall, but he does take the Akali with him. A trade in the dive on the top side.
Yeah, they do get the 1-for-1 trade. This does open up the dragon as well, so there is a bit of a mistake there. However, they are doing a great job at shutting down this Cho'Gath. Another death, another loss of CS and EXP. There's no TP this time, so it's going to have to just take that as well. Landrin, unfortunately, goes down. I think could have survived, but it was a bit sketchy there as they were trying to kill this Cho'Gath. Meanwhile, Queen Lyre picking up some free gold. Doesn't get a plate, though.
No plate for the victor here. However, it looks like they're thinking about a dive here for members of DPS on the bot side. The bullet time comes out, only does a little bit of damage onto Kenzie Shanks. And the bot lane of PUDS has to be very, very careful here. Looks like they're going to scare away DPS for now.
Surprising amount of members bot side for a wave that was pushing away, and looks like Slicing and Fun Phoenix were respecting that as well. So no play there. I think that's just grasping at straws, because if that was a dive setup and the wave was pushing towards the turret, different story. But I think they're just getting desperate for plays if they're pulling something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are down about 1,600 gold at the moment. So wanting to try and recoup that, and it's absolutely reasonable to say that sometimes in games like this, you start feeling like you're further down than you are. You look at the scoreboard, you say you're down 3 kills up against a team that already opened it out on you once before. So you want to kind of take the reins back early before it gets out of control, and sometimes it leads you to make questionable decisions like that.
Yep, and you also get the reverse problem where you think you're stronger than you actually are in a game. And being able to accurately estimate the team gold for both teams is actually an underrated skill in competitive League of Legends here. Lots of trading going on the top side. Kenzie's here to change that up.
Yeah, Red Strike taking more damage here, but Captain Holden using the explosive barrel perfectly knocks both members away. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Landrin going in. The Chaos Storm popped down. Queen Lyre has to flash away. The Ignite ticking down will get it. Meanwhile, Captain Holden managing to secure the Great Escape even after the re-engage by Kenzie Shanks and Red Strike. Pressure put, pressure lost.
Yeah, 7 kills up for the side of PUDS. So they're getting an early lead here. And this one's starting to pull away just a little bit. Kenzie finding themselves in the face of a Janna. As Rift Herald's being taken, this is a key objective for the side of PUDS, as they do want this to snowball the game. And with Lantern doing so well in the mid lane, getting rid of that mid turret for an Assassin Akali that is ahead is a huge boon for your team. And I'm hoping that's what they're aiming for here.
Yeah, Rift Herald still not quite taken, but will be soon here for this Sejuani. Sliason has been left alone in this bot lane for a while, as the Janna ended up all the way at the Crugs of Kenzie Shanks, but no punish from the Latte twins.
Yeah, Latte twins do not get... I mean, they kind of need someone else to help them dive, as they don't have enough power just yet to handle this misfortune. They do, however, have a first item built on this Twitch. Vanilla has gone with the Blade of the Rune King build. And this is where Twitch can win the 1v1 against almost any AD carry. Once you get your surprise with the Q, the attack speed bonus, it almost makes it impossible for the enemy AD carry to catch up in damage. As well, Exhaust might change that from Slicing, but Twitch is definitely stronger right now.
Yeah, and that exhaust, it is worth noting again that Latte Vanilla has the cleanse, so can cleanse that exhaust. Will find Lantern here. One auto attack goes down, the Venom cast, but it's nowhere near enough to poke through that Akali, so Lantern will get out safe.
Yeah, as you were saying, what was your point from earlier?
Pardon?
You were making a point before Latte rudely interrupted.
Just that you can cleanse the damage debuff from exhaust. So the Twitch with some fancy fingers can counter that if it comes out of Sliason here.
Oh, that is very important. Here we go, another mid gank.
Nerubius with the charge in. Will find Queen Lyre. There are 4 members here, and Queen Lyre's health bar just evaporates. Where did the victor go, even through the crown of the Shattered Queen?
Yeah, that just feels unfair when this is happening to you. I like how Landred, no fear, ease straight into turret range, doesn't care. Hold up, Slicing picks up the gold instead. They really like having money on their AD carry on the side of PUDS.
Yeah, I mean, it's worked for them so far in this season. Bola comes out, is immediately cleansed away by the Twitch to stay safe. Kenzie Shanks in a little bit of trouble, has to dash away before getting engaged on. But Latte Vanilla playing very aggressively here, has to be careful that he doesn't get CC'd. Only has the flash left to defend himself.
Yeah, they did use the main engage from Nerubius there, so that is a big ultimate taken out. But the CD is very low. Captain Holden doesn't have TP though. Looks like this is just going to be a give.
Yeah, unless we can see a wild steal from Nerubius, who is currently taking rocks. No, the bullet time coming out to try and steal here. Do they get it? No, a smite by Kenzie Shanks will secure it. Second dragon of the game secured for the red team here.
And
that
DPS
bullet time
are
came
definitely
pretty
gonna
close,
like that.
though.
I mean, it almost killed Kenzie. I think that would have been the way to take the dragon. Kill Kenzie, and then Nerubius knows they can go over the wall and finish off the dragon. That would have been sad times ahead for Kenzie if that did happen.
Absolutely. However, now that they've taken 2 drakes, comes the question: is this Ocean Soul a valid win condition? Landrin going in will find the Lulu. Wild Growth stops the Shuriken charge, but Landrin still has the ultimate available. Damage coming out from the Twitch very quickly. Perfect Execution goes down once, and Twitch with the Contaminate pops the Akali. Meanwhile, on the top side, Red Strike losing these trades so badly to Holden at this point.
Yeah, it is a mythic up as well. Tier almost stacked. However, 2v1.
Here comes Kenzie Shanks once again. Can Holden perform
amazing
another great escape? A body slam exploding cast combo will not be enough. The Diana ult comes out, but Red Strike is forced to flash away. Kenzie Shanks flashing aggressively will get stunned up by Nerubius, and that's another kill picked up by this Sejuani. Red Strike in trouble now. A Sliason coming up as well. Chilling Smite comes out, but Nerubius gets silenced and stunned up under turret. The Chaos Storm coming out as well. Does Queen Lyre have the damage? Looks like the answer is going to be no, as he escapes under the turret as well. Nerubius and Sliason continuing to push this wave out with the intent of killing that turret. Latte Macchiato has joined the fight now, but that's just a support. The threat of Twitch appears to be enough, though.
It's not very often that an AD carry saves someone's life. Slicing with the exhaust there. Saves Nerubius's life. Doesn't use it for themselves. Playing like a team. Love to see that from an AD carry.
Absolutely. He says, "You've given me all this gold so far. Let me give you your life."
Returns the favor. Man, honor. I like it. 3 minutes out from this dragon. No objective going to be readily available. Rift Herald in a minute, so you can consider that one kind of a minor one at this point. As turrets have already begun to fall from the side of DPS. They haven't claimed one of their own, and it's looking like the side of PUDS is inching ever closer to their base as this gold lead has ballooned out to about 4K here, and it looks like the problem's getting worse ever so slightly.
Yeah, however, 4K still isn't as bad as last game was.
Yeah, that's
all
for
the
sure.
way all the way down to 10K before clawing it back a bit was the side of DPS. Nerubius may have found Red Strike here though in the jungle.
Or maybe
However,
Red Strike
with
has
Kenzie
found
Shinx
him.
over the wall, yeah, this might not be the fight that Nerubius wanted. Looks like both sides are going to disengage for now, but with this 4-man invasion squad, how does DPS react?
Yeah, it looks like there's going to be a heavy invade from the side of PUDS, as this area is unwarded, but the surrounding area is. Heavy engages coming in.
Yeah, looks like they're going to dive onto Red Strike here. However, Landrin does not have the damage under the turret. Takes a few turret shots, has to use the perfect execution defensively here. Red Strike down under half health. The explosive cast throws him back into the team. Landrin again has to be very careful because the feast is available. Under 600 health here. The bullet time on the other side of the fight coming out as Captain Holden kills Red Strike, but Latte Vanilla popping the spray and pray will get killed by Sliason. Now the body slam onto Landrin will not pick up the kill. Actually goes over to Phoenix there with the last auto attack. And it looks like the tornado will be enough to keep Liar from trying to hold Landrin there at the end fight.
And this is a crazy turret defense here, but both teams know the implications that this is for the
here comes
dragon.
Landrin around the back, looking for Latte Macchiato, who's very, very low. The tornado comes
Warded.
out, only lands onto Liar, and Landrin forced to run away here as Queen Liar shows his hand and lets Landrin know that they knew he was there the whole time.
Yeah, there are a couple wards saving. Wards save lives, folk. Macchiato certainly knowing that fact right there. 30 seconds out, and we have a dragon to contest. This is going to be a big deal. DPS are going to be happy with picking up this one, as this will insanely stall the game and or give them an opportunity to get a huge power spike. Nerubius going for a risky Rift Herald is getting punished right now.
Yeah, the feast is available, so that Rift Herald will be stolen here by Red Strike, actually. Good timing by Shinx and Red Strike to wander in to Nerubius there, manage to take away that Rift Herald and get another stack onto this Cho'Gath. Now up to 7 with nearly 3,200 health at just 19 minutes.
Captain Holden in a bit of no man's land here.
Yeah, it looks like he's
Queen
gonna
Liar.
engage on Queen Liar. The explosive cast comes out and tosses him back into the team, but Landrin going a completely different direction. Queen Liar being burst down by just Holden alone. The Chaos Storm comes out, but it will not matter as Captain Holden now on a rampage, 4-0-3. The full tank Gregus does so much damage. Rift Herald is summoned in the mid lane, but this Drake fight is going to burst out anyway. Captain Holden zoning away everyone. Kenzie Shinx on the side looking for a way in. Will pop the ultimate, but dies before he can steal the Drake. Now with just 3 members left, there is nothing that this team of DPS can do but watch. Captain Holden doing a great job of zoning away the rest of this team. However, in the mid lane, the Rift Herald did get a turret there. So not a no trade, just a poor trade.
Yeah, they do eventually get just a portrait. That is unfortunate for them, as they do end up losing Queen Liar to Captain Holden way in the beginning of that. Just 1v1 Gragas BTR carry. That is things you don't want to hear. But I think for the side of DPS, I think we have to note that they really need to play their positions correctly. They need to have the front line, and then they need to have the back line squared away. Maybe Kenzie's on the side. Doesn't necessarily have to be with the engage range. They want to play it front to back, and they don't want there to be a bunch of chaos like that last fight. And as you can see, it doesn't go very well for them if that's the case.
No, not in the slightest. And at this point, they really need to start thinking about dealing with Holden and how to deal with Holden. Has the Fimbulwinter stacked? Has the Sunfire? Is working on his third item already? And at 4-0-3, this Gragas is enormously disruptive.
As you can see, and also Captain Holden, I have to say, is playing very well. The number of amazing casts and body slammed used by Captain Holden has been working wonders for his team here. Absolutely massive on this champion.
And he's pulled some miraculous escapes even when Kenzie Shinx and Red Strike have both worked together to try and take down this Gragas. It hasn't been enough. Now we see him blast coning around behind Latte Vanilla and Latte Macchiato. The body slam will miss. Captain Holden trying to get the damage. A huge explosive cast knocks Latte Vanilla back onto the wrong side of this bullet time. Kenzie Shinx about to die already, but Latte Vanilla manages to pick off Sliason. Look at this fight. The Twitch is already dead, but look at Latte Macchiato. His health bar disappeared from Captain Holden. Now down under 100. Will fall there. Nerubius and Fun Phoenix now back to support Captain Holden. Queen Liar going down so rapidly to the two tanks here. Looks like he will fall to one last body slam. Now it's just Red Strike left. The flash forward from Nerubius to secure the stun, and Lantern has finally joined this fight. Red Strike flashing away to try desperately to survive. Will not do it. Sejuani secures the ace. 5-for-1 here. And the inner turret.
Captain Holden making plays for his team. Absolute amazing cast. As we're talking his wonders up, makes another amazing play. Keeps the Twitch in the MF ult as well as picking up kills. I mean, full health at the end of the fight and winning practically a 4v5.
Lantern has found Kenzie Shinx here. Can't steal the Baron if you are dead, my friend.
Yeah, that is some good zoning. Just zoning via death threatening. Gotta love it. They are picking up a very early Baron. This is only 23 minutes in the game.
Yeah, not the earliest Baron we have seen so far in BTL. The earliest was 20 minutes and 26 seconds, but certainly pretty close there.
Yeah, that is a very early Baron. He just shut it out. It's gonna be hard to beat that record.
Yeah, that was a weird game.
And I do have to mention, we are getting ever closer to the money difference of 10k, hitting that mark. We're just waiting for it. Is that the 10k DPS power spike coming?
It may well be. You know, it's the same as the 0 and 10 Yasuo. You just got to get far enough in a hole where you can have your anime protagonist moment. Red Strike doesn't appear to have gotten the memo, though, as he's getting shredded by this MF.
Yeah, they have to make sure that they play this Baron very carefully. Don't overextend. You really just want turrets. You're not going to get the inhib, so no use in going for it. They're grouping up 5 before mid. This could be an opportunity.
Vanilla with the ambush on the side, looking for the angle.
Good cancel.
Aulz Red Strike, a huge Janna ult to save some space, but Latte Vanilla free firing for the side will not manage to get anyone. The Janna does fall. However, Sliason has picked off the Twitch. It's now a 4v3. This turret is so low. One auto attack will take it. Doesn't. Yes, it will go down. There goes the Lulu as well. The Victor falls very rapidly as well. The Misfortune popping off a double kill. Now 24-7 as this DPS team is routed.
Yeah, and it looks like the one who did have the DPS was PUDS. And I do have to throw out the question, are we sure they're unenhanced here? As they are making their way to this Nexus. Red Strike is going to try to save the day. Latte is up now. And can they make a last stand here?
Latte Vanilla doesn't have the ultimate, but will try his best. No, Lantern deletes him. Red Strike falls as well. It is just the Lulu now. The Nexus down under half, down under a quarter, and will fall. A 2-0 here for the PUDS.
Yeah, and have to throw it to PUDS. Unfortunately, DPS, no 10k turnaround power spike for them. Just a straight decline over the series here. They were able to pick up wins slowly and pick up momentum, picking up multiple objectives. Had the Rift Herald, got a bit tricky around the last dragon, but they were able to win that fight, secured the Baron right after. And yeah, that was just a quick win after losing a Baron fight into Baron. All right, dragon fight into Baron.
Yeah, the performance unenhanced Ducks really performing so far. 2-0. in match play. And I don't think there's a single member on this roster that you could point to as being a weak spot right now.
Yeah, it looks like they're pretty solid at setting up team plays. And in the first game, Slicin was able to carry pretty hard. Second game did do well, but I think we gotta give it up to Captain Holden for really making the plays in game number two.
You'd call him your MVP?
Well, not for the series, but for game two, definitely was. Overall MVP, I think it just might be Slicin for consistent performance throughout both games.
All right. Well, is there anyone you would like to interview from the side of Performance Unenhanced Ducks before we call it an evening here, Crims?
Well, I think it might be fun to get potentially Captain Holden or Nerubius for the interview here, as I think they are really the driving factor for their teams, and it's always fun to interview those players for after the game.
I sent a message to their coach. Alrighty. We will hold for just a second to see if either of them are willing to chat with us here. However, with this game, we are starting to get the teams stratifying here in BTL. How are you feeling looking at all of the teams that we have so far, Crims?
Well, I think judging off the first games here, it's looking like these teams are getting a bit sucker punched in these matchups 2-0 in both. I think everyone's still figuring each other out. But I think we're starting to see who's an early game team and who's a late game team. And PUDS definitely seem like they are the team to take it to others early as well as Spectre.
All right, we are being joined on the desk for an interview by Keg Control Captain Holden himself. A standout game two in a decisive series for the Performance Unenhanced Ducks. Congratulations to you and to your team as a whole.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that. We really put in the effort to win. I could have said
All
that a little better, but I think we had a good time. I think we played right. We were all talking. Our games on yesterday when we played those were a little bit lackluster. So today our coach really whipped us into shape. So.
Okay, I want to build up into the excitement, so we'll leave game one for the second half of the interview. So we'll talk about game two first, and we just got to hand it to you. Your Gragas looked amazing, and you were making tons of plays for your team, really setting them up for the win. And for game two, we gave you the MVP there. How do you feel about this Gragas pick and how you played?
Well, most of the time, for our final pick, my brain's kind of off during draft, only because our coach is such a brilliant drafter. I kind of just don't really offer too much because normally it's not a very good option. He just locks me in Gragas, and he's yeah no it's I think it's good, and it makes me feel like a true champion playing Gragas with some Nightcore playing in the background.
Okay. Using that to pump you up. I mean, I do want to ask though, what did you think your role was on the team, or what did you think your job was, and what was your mindset?
Yeah, most of the time on the team, my role is kind of just like Mr. Positive, because most of the times my role in the game is I kind of coin flip a lot of my matchups where I could go really poorly. Like I got solo killed in that first game. I almost got solo killed in this game. And most of the time I just try to, keep everyone positive, because sometimes we start to lose, and I'm afraid of negativity.
You're
Maybe when you're
afraid of it.
talking, maybe we're talking more about League of Legends role. Uh, in which case normally I kind of just either play weak side top laner or some random damage carry.
All right. Well, you did mention game number one. You're Mr. Positive. So I'm going to assume that you were doing a lot of talking near the end of game one.
I Are you inferring that there was some negativity that was going on during game one?
Well, unless you put a stop to it, there potentially was. Let's paint the story here. I'm not sure if you're aware, But there was a 10K gold lead that kind of got thrown in the garbage throughout the events of game number 1, and
we
it
were
was
up
looking like a
10K?
turnaround.
You
Yeah, you
were
up
up
10K.
10,000 gold.
And then you were down, and then you were down 1,000 gold.
We were up 10K? I gotta go. I gotta make some calls after this game. This is ridiculous.
You were
I
up
don't know what
10K
we're
and
talking
you
about.
threw it all away, my friend.
Yes, it was all down the drain, but you managed to win it back. So I want to talk about how you guys were able to pull it off, because it really looked like Queen Liar was just going to shred all of you guys to victory there.
Yeah, no, I was kind of worried about the Kale. And then I figured out that I was like halfway through the game, I kind of forgot which champion I was playing. And we sort of lost our touch. I think that's where our 10K gold lead was sort of lost. But near the end, we kind of just Kale kind of just walked into me, and I figured that it was too good an opportunity to kind of just flip her into the rest of my team. You know, I
Yeah, it
think
did
I
pay
think I
off.
think our overall goal in that game was to give a false sense of security, because we figured we weren't going to win in the late game, and it was going a little bit too far. So we're like, yeah, let's just toss our 10K, and we'll figure it out at the end, because they'll get overconfident. Most of the time, we don't really have a comeback strategy. We kind of just LPL it, where we just say, hey, man, if we're down like 10K gold, let's just fight, because we have to force a fight or they're going to win with their 10K gold lead or whatever. So, and then if we're up 10K gold, we got to force our lead. So we just, fight anyways. So,
Oh, there we go. Fight all the time. I do have to imagine that you guys are giving your coach a lot of anxiety. So feel sorry for whoever that is. As I'm gonna have to congratulate you winning 2-0. By the way, you were up 9K until that last fight. So I think you guys are good at getting leads. I'm just gonna throw that out there, as I think that's gonna be it for my closing statements here.
I think that most of the time I know our coach gets some anxiety, and that only transfers into him. After the game, he gives us what we call a lecture, because we're not allowed to be negative about the talks that he gives us. So gives us a little lecture, says you guys are crazy or whatever, and then we get into the next game ready to go.
All right, sounds good.
Well, once again, congratulations to you and the entire PUDS team for your victory tonight. That is the end for us and for week 2 of the Black Twitch League. We will have updated standings for you in just a bit. Not this evening on stream, but in the Discord if you want to go and check that out. And of course, if you'd like to see week 3, go ahead and hit that follow button so you can be notified when we go live Saturday and Sunday at 6 and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For everyone here at Black Twitch League, I have been Aulz. For myself, for Crimzs, for WookieMonster, and for everyone here on the staff, thank you for coming out and supporting the league. We'll see you guys next time.